But these days a big discussion has been ESOPs, right?
Right.
I wanted to spend some time and understand from you, uh, how do you look at ESOPs, and how important a part are they becoming in the compensation structure, especially in the Indian market?
Uh, of course, very, very important. But the problem with ESOPs is our candidates, our employees do not understand ESOPs, which is why, in their
Mm.
eyes, it is something that is a plus plus.
Okay.
Uh, Again, I'll take comparisons with US. In US, you'll hear of people taking a pay cut from their meta salaries and joining a company with higher ESOPs and eventually making more money.
Hmm.
We rarely
Mm.
come across candidates who'll say, I'll take a pay cut, give me ESOPs, and then whatever, right? People expect you to at least pay whatever they are getting in cash, plus, of course, you have to pay ESOPs.
ESOPs.
The reason is, and for very good reason. I mean, we hear of companies going public, employees becoming millionaires, right? But there are thousands of other companies who have not yet gone public, right?
Hmm.
You know what happens to their employees who have left the organization? Most of them who have had ESOPs never get to realize ESOPs, right? There is this thing called exercise window, within which you have to actually purchase ESOPs back from the company. So let's say you, as a
Mm.
candidate, get ESOPs worth 50 lakhs,
Hmm.
translating to the number of shares. In 4 years, all of that 50
Mm.
lakhs worth of shares have vested. Now, only
Yeah.
means, let's say those number of shares are 1,000. That gives Harsh the entitlement to purchase 1,000 shares from the company at a predefined price. Now,
Yes.
Yeah.
candidates and employees rarely ask for, hey, what is the price at which I'll
Hmm.
purchase it from you? Nobody
Exactly.
asks because nobody is bothered.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask, some unfair pay practices are, you'll have to buy it at the fair market value. Now you have not gone public.
That's pointless. Yeah.
Pointless. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
am, and I don't have that much money that I
Yeah.
buy. You know, even if I let's say leave, right? There's an exercise window that within these 90 days, typically unfair pay practices again, within 90 days you have to buy. But if you buy that within 90 days, right? And if you have left the organization and there's no liquidity event, I mean, I have to end up paying whatever the fair market value differential is. 30% of that goes as tax.
Yeah.
Again, unfair. In US, it is very common, and YC also preaches that keep the exercise window to infinity. And it is not logistically possible, as in legally you have to, after every, I think, 2 years or 4 years, keep extending it. Which means, if I worked for a startup 4 years back, whenever it goes public, whenever, I will exercise my right to buy my ESOPs 1,000 shares just before it goes public, and I'll redeem. But that
Hmm.
is a flexibility
Yeah.
rarely startups give, right? So tomorrow
Yeah.
you'll also hear of stories of poor employees who have had ESOPs, earned ESOPs, worked 5 years, but when company was able to make it big, when they went public or whenever liquidation was there, they had no right to exercise ESOPs. Our
Yeah.
existing employees, many of them who come from companies who have now gotten acquired, just earn nothing. And these are, I cannot name them, but
Crazy.
these are almost every other company. You next time you speak to a company, you just ask them, what is your exercise price and what is your exercise window? If the answer is fair market
Mm.
value and 90 days, you just understand this is not the company who should even talk about ESOPs. If they're talking about ESOPs, they're just
Ah.
bluffing with the candidates. And unfortunately, most of
Mm.
the companies do that. So I think
True.
it is
True.
fair for employees not to value ESOPs, because companies have traditionally tried to deceive them using that. If they stop doing that, of course employees will start valuing ESOP, because then you'll not hear of stories that I, as an employee, am an employee in the company when the company goes public and I made money. You'll also
Yeah.
hear of stories, I worked for a company in the past, went public, I made money.
Hmm.
More of such stories will start coming up and employees will start valuing ESOPs. So when you ask value of ESOPs in today's scenario, because our candidates don't understand the nitty gritties of that and how they are deceived, I don't think there's any value.
Yeah.
If we
Mm.
make our employees and candidates understand the value, only then there is value, and also stop those unfair pay practices, and only
Hmm.
then there is value. Otherwise, I mean, expecting whoever will join you in this journey to stay with you till IPO or any sort of liquidity is also, I think, very naive and I'm not sure how do you say
Yeah,
that, but I think that is very different thinking. I don't concur with
correct.
that.
Yeah. Do you feel that Indian companies shy away from an ESOP-led structure? Like, do you generally feel SME leaders are not very open about, like they think it's a, of course it is, and they feel it's a pound of flesh. I don't want to give away any of it to anybody ever.
Uh, so while they may think that, I think because startups eventually will be VC funded, and more
Yeah.
uh, people who have done this in the past would come into the picture. I think they mandate companies to have a certain kitty of ESOPs and
Yeah.
actually hire leaders using that kitty.
Mm,
So while one or two leaders might be of that opinion that they shy away from giving equity, but I think as companies mature, there are enough people to guide them to actually make that happen. For example, when
fair.
we were doing our round, we didn't have an ESOPs pool. We just, before that, the hires that we make, it was just written on a piece of paper and given to them that we'll give you this much ESOPs, whatever. When our investors came in, they carved out 10% as the pool, and
Nice.
every senior hire that we did, they recommended us that, hey, this is the kind of ESOPs that you should be giving
Mm,
to this employee because he's a senior hire and so on. So I think more maturity has come in there with respect to shedding equity where it is due and making the right hire versus keeping it to yourself. So I think that thinking has gone away, given that now ESOPs is a separate pool. So founders
yeah.
don't feel that, hey, it is something that being taken away from me. It has already been taken. 10% is carved out
Yeah.
for it. So I think
Mm.
they're more comfortable now that ways.
Nice. Nice.